Okay, let's dive right into this fascinating explainer. Today we're looking at the mechanics of the natural world, but through a really unique lens. We're going to explore a historical theological text called God Solves the Weight Problem. Now, what makes this specific text so incredibly compelling is how it frames a daily, totally ordinary natural occurrence, evaporation, as this massive, almost unimaginable logistical hurdle of global irrigation. We aren't just talking about rain here. We're looking at how this source breaks down the sheer physics and engineering required to literally water the earth.
So think about this for a second. How exactly do you lift a heavy, salty ocean up into the sky? The text actually frames the Earth's weather system as this massive, deliberate engineering puzzle designed by God. To successfully water the landmasses of our entire planet, the source presents two seemingly impossible physical obstacles that absolutely have to be overcome. First, you've got the problem of immense weight, and second, the problem of absolute toxicity. If you can't solve both of those, well, the Earth simply dries up or dies.
Let's focus in on that first hurdle in this grand design, which is the sheer weight of the ocean. The fundamental issue here is really one of location and gravity. I mean, the Earth desperately needs water to survive, right? Plants, animals, entire ecosystems, they all rely on this constant renewing supply. But the vast majority of that available water is trapped miles down in the ocean basin. You've got millions upon millions of square miles of dry land that desperately need a drink, and an ocean full of it sitting way down below. So how do you move all of that up?
To truly wrap your head around the scale of the problem we're looking at, the source gives us this crucial metric, 800. Just pause and think about that ratio. The text points out that ocean water is 800 times heavier than the atmosphere above it. That is wild. We aren't just trying to move a splash of liquid. We are trying to lift a substance that is 800 times heavier than the very air that's supposed to carry it. Logistically, mechanically, lifting something with that kind of extreme weight disparity seems, well, pretty much impossible. But here comes the workaround. The core solution to this immense weight problem relies on perhaps the most basic physical principle you can think of. Heat expands things, while cold contracts them. According to the source, God solves this massive weight disparity simply by using heat. The text points out that water is actually the material that's most subject to this rule of expansion. So it's not some overly complex, convoluted mechanism. It just relies on the fundamental laws of thermodynamics to start moving that heavy, unyielding ocean. And the sheer power of that expansion is absolutely staggering. When ocean water is turned into steam, it becomes 1,600 to 1,700 times its original volume. This right here is the first major mechanical shift in our global irrigation puzzle. The water isn't just getting a little bit larger. Its volume is exploding by up to 1,700 times. It's a massive, almost violent physical transformation that sets this entire planetary process into motion.
But, as you might guess, volume is only half the battle. We still have to deal with the actual weight. The text argues that as God sends down the warming rays of the sun, this incredible expansion triggers a massive reduction in density. The heat actively turns that extremely heavy liquid water into a vapor that is a staggering 900 times lighter than its liquid form. It's crazy. We've gone from a dense, unmovable liquid stuck at the bottom of the ocean to an incredibly light vapor entirely through the mechanical application of solar heat.
Which brings us to the real turning point in the whole process. Remember how we started with water that was 800 times heavier than the atmosphere? Well, this mathematical transformation leaves the newly formed vapor 1/8 times lighter than the air itself. 1/8, that is the magic number. By expanding the water and severely reducing its density, the vapor has successfully crossed the threshold. It is finally, mathematically, lighter than the air around it.
So when we put all these pieces together, we get this incredibly elegant three-step mechanical workflow. Step 1, the sun's warming rays heat the heavy ocean water. Step 2, the water expands massively, becoming a vapor that's just a fraction of its original weight. And step 3, because that vapor is now lighter than the atmosphere, it is easily lifted right out of the ocean. It can literally be carried miles into the air and formed into great cloud masses. Boom, the weight problem is officially solved.
But actually, scratch that. We aren't quite done yet. As the source points out, the water is finally light enough to lift into the atmosphere, but there is a major, deadly catch. What about the salt? If that ocean water is lifted up and dropped onto the continents while it's still full of toxic salt and minerals, it would utterly destroy the Earth's plants. I mean, we would have achieved global irrigation, sure, but we'd essentially be irrigating the entire world with poison. The text explains that God solves this second major engineering problem through a flawless, built-in filtration system.
And that system, it's just the very nature of evaporation itself. You see, evaporation doesn't just change the weight and volume of the water. It simply abandons all the deadly salts, the mineral deposits, and the impurities right back in the ocean basin. It effortlessly lifts the water up, but leaves all those heavy toxic elements completely behind.
Look at the contrast here on this slide, because the transformation from start to finish is absolute. We began with this dense, heavy ocean water, packed with deadly salt, sitting impossibly lower than the land it desperately needs to reach. And through this highly engineered process, we end up with a purified cloud vapor, 1/8 lighter than the air, perfectly clean, sweet, and soft. The difference between the beginning of the mechanism and the end is, quite literally, night and day.
The source beautifully wraps up its explanation of this natural machinery with a simple yet profound quote. Because the weight problem was solved by heat and expansion, and the toxicity problem was solved by the purifying nature of evaporation, the water taken up into the clouds is now, quote, sweet and soft, perfectly adapted to irrigate the earth. It serves as the ultimate engineered solution, delivering exactly what the landmasses need safely and effectively.
And that brings us to our final thought for this explainer. The text presents such a highly structured mathematical view of something we take absolutely for granted every single time we step outside with an umbrella. It really makes you wonder, just how many other everyday natural phenomena are hiding massive, elegant mathematical solutions right above our heads. The next time it rains, are you just going to see the weather? Or will you see the incredible mechanics of weight, volume, and purification hidden in every single drop?